This
Couple more
conference
minutes.
will now be recorded.
And I will double check to see that we have a quorum. We do have a quorum, so as soon as we just get everybody signed in, or everybody's online, we can begin, probably in just another minute. All right, we do have a quorum, so I think whenever you want to start, we can begin. Brian, if you put up the agenda. Okay.
Okay, all set, Brad?
Yep, whenever you are.
Okay, introduction, just again, my name is Dick Kilhart, the Chairman of Joint Transportation Committee here in FLDPW. Do you want to go through a roll, Brad, of the folks that are on there, or do you not need to do that?
I'll just do a quick roll through the using the names off the chat. Excuse me. Brian Doherty,
Yes,
Yes,
Brad.
Tice.
Alan Minoia,
Present.
Alice Livedall,
Here.
Amanda Reed,
Here.
Beth Sudemeyer, Beth, can you hear us?
Sorry about that. Here.
Okay. Dick Kilhart,
Yes, here.
George Cahaley,
Present.
George Snow,
Here.
Janet Tice,
Here.
Rebecca Merrill,
Here.
Robert Schwartz,
Present.
Roger Hoyt,
Present.
Sarah Bradbury, I see it.
I'm here.
Okay, Sherry Bean,
Here.
Travis Condon,
Here.
and William Caldwell.
Here.
Okay, so that's the roll, and we do have a quorum, like I said.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comments at this time?
This is Daryl Amaril's here from District 2 as well. So
Hi,
Sorry,
Daryl. Seeing no comments, we'll move forward to approval of the September 14th minutes. Those were sent to all of us prior to the meeting. The online attachment, is there any, they're up in front of us now, but is there any corrections or additions, or otherwise entertain a motion to accept as presented?
I make a motion to accept.
Motion's been made and seconded. Anyone second, please?
I'll second it.
All's in favor? Aye.
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 That's unanimous. Moving forward to item number 4. The Transportation Improvement Program, is that Brad or Brian, you taking that one?
Actually, George Snow's got that one.
Oh, George can take that one, okay.
George, is you here? Are you on available?
George, you're muted.
George, can you hear us?
You're muted,
You're
George.
muted, George. Is there a problem? You have an
Sorry
issue?
about that. Yeah, I didn't turn my
All
mic
right.
on. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry. Okay. So back to the amendment. Last month, we were contacted by Mass DOT that project number 609314, the intersection improvements at Greenville and Turnpike Roads in Ashby, be removed from consideration in the 2023 TIP due to the successful advertisement of the project on August 27th. The total cost of the project is approximately 2.4 mil. And when you remove a tip from a project tip from the tip, it requires an amendment. So tip amendment number 1 was presented to the MPO at the October 19th MPO meeting for action to release the amendment for a 21-day public review and comment period. A motion was made, seconded, and passed for the MPO to release the tip amendment for the 21-day period that commenced on October 26th and will close at the end of business on November 15th. Today, we are seeking MJTC comments on the amendment for the MJTC to make a possible recommendation to the MPO that the amendment be passed by that body. And that's all I have for that.
Does the group have any additional comments, or shall we make a recommendation to the MPO for approval of that? Is there any?
Just to clarify too, we have not received any comments either through meetings, emails, or phone calls. So,
Anyone here in the group like to speak? I don't see any, Brad, so.
okay. In that case, we just look for consensus on a recommendation that the MJTC recommend the MPO endorse the amendment as presented.
We good with that in the group? Should we actually have to take a vote for that, Brad, or just consensus?
No, just consensus. As long as
Okay.
everybody's in agreement with it, we'll go with that. Is there any?
I concur.
Okay. Anyone else who doesn't concur? That'd be the easiest way.
Works for me.
I think it's good.
All right.
Okay.
So we'll take it as a unanimous recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving forward to the next item, the Montachusett Regional Transportation Plan update.
And that will be Brian.
I can take this
Brian?
one.
Yep, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, well, I'll take this item. So we've been talking about the last few meetings, the update to the RTP. Previously, we discussed the vision statement, which we sort of buttoned up, wrapped up at last meeting. The last few meetings, I've provided the handout of the vision, goals, objectives, and strategies from the 2020 plan, just so people can get an idea of the type of thing that we're working on updating. And the idea going forward, the next few meetings, is to take a few of these goals, and there's 7 in all, and go through with the group to get any feedback on the proposed changes that we as staff have been discussing internally. So just as a review, the goals that we have are basically general statements of what we wish to accomplish. For example, to just basically improve and maintain safety and security. That's goal number 1. The objectives are the more specific items to help achieve the goals, and the strategies are more action items to achieve the goals. And finally, we have performance measures, which we have to update as well. They're associated with the goals, and they're more quantitative measures to determine if we're meeting our goals. So what I guess we're planning on doing today is to go over some of the staff edits that we've been working on in-house. and try to get some feedback if there is any from this group, or at least just have discussion of some of the changes that we're proposing. And if there are any ideas or feedback going forward, always feel free to reach out to us via email or otherwise. We've got some great feedback from the vision statement, which we made some good changes to that from this group and from the MPO as well. So anything is helpful. And to just give this group an idea of why some things may have changed from 2020. So I'll just go over, I plan on going over goals 1 and 2 today. As I mentioned before, there's 7 goals, and there's a good amount of information in here to go over. So we can just break it up over the next few meetings. So the first goal, as I mentioned, is to improve and maintain safety and security. The first objective we have under that, and what you see is yellow and highlighted in yellow is what we're proposing to change or add. So everything else is basically from the 2020 plan, and the idea is to not totally reinvent the wheel, and it's important to carry some of these things forward. They help us sort of stay focused on our goals. So the first objective under goal 1 is to reduce the number and severity of vehicular crashes within the region across all modes. The first strategy to promote and identify projects that are designed to address high crash locations and prioritize their implementation. So those are examples of things that we're proposing to keep there. The first addition that we have proposed here, highlighted in yellow, is to continue to implement and contribute to road safety audits at locations across the region as needed. Basically, what we'll see later on, we actually took this out of a performance measure that we had. We felt it would better work as a strategy. So this is more of an action item that we can do to accomplish our goals. Moving forward, to promote and encourage education outreach programs to drivers, pedestrians, bicyclists regarding rules and responsibilities. Also to encourage community involvement with federal and state programs and education initiatives. The next addition we're proposing here is specifically seek funding through Safe Streets for All, which is a federal funding program for the bipartisan infrastructure legislation that came out last year, to develop a safety action plan for the region and eventually funding for the implementation of projects. We wanted to add this, it's because we're actively working on attaining some of this funding from this federal grant to make improvements in the region. We actually have applied to the Safe Streets for All program a few months ago, and we're awaiting a reply from the federal government. And hopefully, and one of the strategies that we hope moving forward is to ultimately gain some funding for a implementation of projects. Moving forward, to seek to improve user awareness along all transportation networks through better identification, pavement marking, signage, with an emphasis on bicycle and pedestrian routes. The next addition here, the next bullet under strategies, is seek to expand the number of use of intelligent transportation systems, technologies such as variable message signs, along major roads such as Route 2 and I-190 to inform drivers of potential unsafe conditions and important alerts. Basically, we're just recommending adding reference to the ITS technologies, variable message signs, which I'm sure we all see along the highways. That's a form of ITS technologies. We just wanted to add the intelligent transportation system technologies reference in there, just to have it more all-encompassing. So a minor change there. The second objective under goal 1, improve access and mobility along identified emergency and evacuation routes in the region. And the one strategy we have identified under there, which we'll carry forward, is to promote projects that address key identified emergency and evacuation routes in order to maintain effectiveness. So we tie performance measures to each of these goals as well. This allows us to determine if we're meeting the goals. They're quantitative. We can actually see and analyze if we've met these measures to determine if we're meeting our goals that we state. So the first 2 performance measures, and these are all brought forth from the 2020 plan. The first two we're proposing under goal 1 to omit. And the reason why we feel the need to delete these is because they're redundant. The statewide there are statewide performance measures that basically look at these things, look at crash stats, fatalities, injury crashes, and we don't necessarily see a need to be redundant in that. We contribute to those statistics and analysis at the state level with DOT, and we report on them in our plan. So I believe we accepted these performance measures at the state level through the MPO in 2019. So just a few years ago. So we'll keep doing that and take that approach and take away these two performance measures from this section of the plan. Number 3, identify and/or implement 4 to 5 corrective projects at identified top 10 high incident locations over a 10-year period. And we're proposing the yellow portion of this, which is just adding or at least 10% of target funding utilized in projects at these locations over a 10-year period. And the reason for this is just to basically widen the scope of meeting this measure. We never know how many safety-related projects are going to come down the line in the improvement program, specifically at the top 10 high incident locations. It's not always totally up to us, so we wanted to also include that 10% of funding going towards those projects, which is also something that we identified as a planning scenario in our previous plan. So we're just basically broadening that target a little bit. Number 4, conduct 1 to 2 road safety audits at identified high crash locations every 2 years. We'd like to delete this measure, mostly because Mass DOT is responsible for implementing these road safety audits. It's a little bit out of our hands. We felt that it was more of a strategy. It's important that we contribute to these things, which we do. We're involved in a number of them that take place throughout the year in our region. If we think that there's a need for one, we reach out to the appropriate parties to do that, but we're not actually the ones that implement them and complete these audits. We're just involved. So we're moving that to a strategy. Number 5, increase the number of communities involved in the Safe Routes to School program. So we're just proposing, we're trying to brainstorm internally other applicable federal and state programs which we can quantify that may make sense to add into this measure. So that's a change we may make, just to add another program that may have come on board in the last 4 years since this was last done. Number 6, maintain involvement with the Central Mass Regional Homeland Security Council and evacuation planning efforts. We'll delete this mostly because it's not a performance measure per se. It's not quantifiable. It's more of a strategy, and we actually have that identified as in our strategies right now. So we'll remove this from our performance measures. And finally, number 7, under the first goal, is to maintain the average number of preventable fixed route crashes under 2+ per month and demand responsive crashes under 5+ per month. And this is something that the Transit Authority, MART, has included the last go around. And basically what we'll be doing is working with them to update these performance measures as pertains to transit and see what they cover in their current plans and what they wish to see in here. So we plan on possibly changing many of the transit ones depending on what their wishes are. Our goal 2 is to reduce congestion and improve mobility. The first objective under that goal is to monitor and promote and identify projects that address congested roadways within the region. The first strategy to support programs that efficiently address deficiencies across all modes, including freight and rail locations. And our first proposed addition to this is a strategy to expand and improve analysis on freight and rail activities, including remaining active in state-led data and analysis initiatives. And the reason why we're looking to add this is because we wanted to reflect sort of what's changed in the last 4 years. There's been a number of efforts at the state and federal level to do more freight planning. And there's been some committees that we've been involved with, and we feel like it's a need to identify that as a strategy in our planning process going forward. So we're proposing adding that at this point. The second objective is to increase travel options within the region through the promotion of trails, complete streets, transit, land use, and their interactions. And the strategy under that is to encourage communities to address local mobility issues in order to promote shift options in congested areas, which we'll keep as written. The performance measures under goal 2. The first one, to conduct travel time data collection along 3 to 5 major roadways throughout the region on an annual basis. And we'd like to reevaluate this measure because basically the travel time data collection that we used to do is outdated. Since the last RTP, there's been more available information on that used to be proprietary, such as like Waze app data, and a lot of people are familiar with the Google Map traffic data. That stuff has come online in the last few years, and we actually have access to some of that data. Some federal and state contracts have made that type of thing accessible to us to analyze. And instead of traveling around the region and timing our travels in congested areas and the old way of doing things, we'll reevaluate this measure and identify some of those new technologies to plug in there. Performance measure 2, identify one bottleneck location and conduct a study every 2 years in order to develop and/or implement corrective measures. Basically, we're just proposing to change reference to bottleneck to congested. We feel like it just broadens the scope of possible studies. We've studied a number of bottlenecks throughout the region, and to be honest with you, there are only so many in the Montachusett region that are really stand out. So we'll just broaden the scope of that to include any congested area that we feel may warrant a study. So just a minor change on that. Number 3 is to increase the number of complete street certified communities within the region. Seek to have a majority of the communities formally certified within 10 years. At the time we created this performance measure, complete streets had just come on board in a large statewide initiative, and we've met this measure. Basically what we're proposing is to seek other programs we can apply to this performance measure as well. For example, communities that may be involved in other complete streets efforts at the statewide level that have come out of recent funding in the last few years. So that's really it. These are, relatively minor additions and changes, but it's important to have some continuity going forward in these plans, just to sort of be able to measure ourselves and what the trends are. So if there are any feedback, please feel free. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, always feel free to reach out to me or anyone on staff.
Brian, we'll also put this information, these handouts that you're showing here, in the online folder we have, the OneDrive folder for this meeting, that you can access through the agenda as well as the meeting announcement on the website, so that if you want to take a further look at it more closely, it'll be there for you to look at and see what the, again, review the highlights and stuff in yellow and so forth. But any feedback you have on these, let us know. We'll be coming back with the other, Brian said, the other goals and strategies, refinements that we're looking at doing. And then we'll have a final version for, again, review and discussion to make sure we've captured what we're presenting, what we're trying to present, and what feedback we get from you and others in the general public.
One other item under the RTP is just the survey is available online now. It's live. We have a link to our website on it. I believe there's a QR code as well. We also plan on submitting paper surveys throughout the region at Council on Agings. We've reached out to them. And if there's any other place that anyone can think of, a good place to get feedback in your community, let us know, and we'll try to get some surveys out that way as well.
Yeah, we've purchased some drop boxes that we can leave at, excuse me, the various places such as Council on Aging's, libraries, and so forth. So we're just looking for additional information from you guys as to possible locations that you think we can get some nice feedback from. So we'll make paper copies available as well as the online version that people can then access. And there was one other item we had on the RTP, the public workshops. Do you have that flyer up, Brian?
Not sure I have the flyer.
It should be in the folder, the meeting folder. We're scheduled, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 public workshops, we're calling them, on the RTP. And there's coming up next week and the following week. We have, each workshop's going to focus on one specific subregion of the MPO. We're going to do them remote. We're planning about an hour. The way we're looking at presenting this is giving some initial feedback on what the RTP is, what it addresses, and what it helps with, what it basically does for the region and what its purpose is. And then we'll throw it open to the general public to give us feedback on the various issues that they see that are important to be addressed in their region, as well as possible locations and things that need to be examined. So this flyer is again available as a download from our website. It's also on our website. Using these QR codes, you can register for the particular subregion you're interested in. So you can see we have, 4 subregions of the MPO. Then we have one meeting scheduled to talk about the 3 cities. And then finally, there is a transit meeting we're planning on having. We're going to have it at the MART facility on Water Street. And that one is going to be an in-person meeting. We'll probably set up a remote access to it, but there won't be a need to pre-register for that. It'll be an in-person meeting. So you're invited to attend, anyone that you're interested in. We sent this notice out to, I don't know, hopefully 1,000 people in the last day or so. Town clerks, planning boards, planning departments, DPWs, boards of selectmen, so on and so forth, asking them to post it, pass it on to anyone they feel might be interested. So if you get a copy of this and you know of some organization or group that may have some interest, feel free to send them the copy of the flyer or to send them to our website to get the information. And once we complete the workshop, we'll post the seminar or the video or whatever we take on our upcoming RTP website, so that you can go back and review it and see what was discussed and what people were talking about. Our general approach is we want to get feedback on planning strategies for the coming 20 odd years of the RTP. Last time we looked at strategies, we asked people, what is most important to you as you're moving forward in the region? What do you think is most important on the transportation network, whether it's safety, congestion, climate change, so on and so forth. So we wanted to get those kind of feedbacks too from people as we develop this plan. So encourage anyone to attend and to pass it on to anyone else you might think might have an interest in this.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, Beth Faxon from Townsend. This is, I think it's a great way to set up the public hearings. I'm just a little concerned that the time frame was a tad bit short. I just got this yesterday, thank you, and I've been trying to forward it far and wide, but I see Townsend's session is Monday at 1 p.m. I'm almost wondering if, I know you have a lot of different sessions, but for our own, feedback from elected officials. I know there are a lot of officials, fire department, police department, that could provide a lot of valuable feedback for this.
Mhm.
What can we do if we can't get the word out in time? I just want this to be, this is a great forum. I'm just a little worried that we're not going to be able to get the people there in the time frame.
Well, first of all, we're not going to cut it at an hour. Once we hit an hour, we're not going to stop everybody and pull the plug. We'll
Yep.
keep going for whatever's reasonable.
Yep.
We just wanted to let people know that we're not intending to take up your entire day with this discussion. And also, we'll be spreading the word too of how they could also send us additional information. It's not a one-time. This is your only opportunity to get information to us. It's, talk to us about concerns and areas of interest and so on. And then we can get specific also later on with additional input from the communities.
Yeah.
And it may spin into additional workshops later on down the line. We don't know yet, but we're giving us our first shot and see how this goes, and then we'll play it by ear. And like I said, we're not going to limit you, as this is your only opportunity to provide us some feedback.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll keep sending it. And I noticed that you attached the survey, which was excellent. So
yeah,
good work.
And anyone who has seen that survey, we don't have a time frame on that one for closing it. We want to keep it open for a while. So encourage people to fill that out and send it on to us.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item, the Safe Routes to School review with a Mass DOT presentation.
That will be Sherry.
Sherry?
Just waiting for the slides. Okay, perfect. So this was a presentation that the Safe Routes to School folks at MassDOT had presented at the MPO recently, and we wanted to make sure that the JTC members also was able to see it. So I am not the one who originally gave this presentation, but I'm doing my best to make sure you all get the information. So for those who aren't familiar, the Safe Routes to School program is the MassDOT program that is aimed to encourage students to walk and bike to school safely. They do a lot of outreach with the school community and educating students on how to walk and bike safely. And there's also the infrastructure component, which is an added bonus to the program that communities are eligible to apply for and receive some funds to get some sidewalks or bike lanes or any other infrastructure that might be needed to make it more safe for the students in that area. So this will be touching upon the infrastructure component for the most part. Next slide, Brian. So the overview of the infrastructure component, there are two separate funding categories, and the Signs and Lines grant is relatively new. It's more of a smaller, like a quick build type of projects. And so far we've had 6,000, they go basically from like $6,000 reimbursements and then to the municipality, and approximately $4,000 for additional benefits in assessing and designing services. So far, we've only had 16 projects completed because it is relatively new, and I know that they have really ramped up this program. I know it's going to continue to be an asset, so that's something that you want to consider. Fitchburg has been a recipient back in 2019 into 20. So we were hoping that a couple more of our communities can make use of that funding pot. The next one is the infrastructure grant, which is $200,000 to $2 million projects. 39 projects have been completed to date, and 33 are actually currently in progress. Next slide. So eligible applicants, you have to be a K through 12 school who has partnered with the Safe Routes to School program for at least 6 months in order to apply for infrastructure funding. The fact that they are including high schools is new, so that's something to consider if you didn't already know that they had added high schools to the list. You must receive public funding and committed to ongoing Safe Routes to School activities. And if you are a diverse socioeconomic community, you are highly encouraged to apply. All right, so projects that may be funded include projects that will improve safety and or increase the number of children walking and biking to school that are located within 2 miles of a K through 12 school or school campus and are within the public right of way for a bike and pedestrian pathway. K through 12 students must be the primary beneficiaries, and projects must be ADA accessible. Eligible projects that will not be considered are ones that have recurring costs, such as payroll for a crossing guard, for example. Pavement maintenance won't be considered, travel lane improvements, or school bus improvement projects. All right, so eligible project examples include sidewalks, traffic calming measures, crossing improvements, and bicycle facilities. And then they give you a nice, this is next. Sorry, I was ahead of slide. So what is covered, they will actually fund the design and construction, which is unique because most of our TIP projects require the community to come up with the design cost. So this is a added bonus for that. And there's no match required. So it's a pretty simple funding category. Project cost estimates, they're divided into 3 groups. So they have a small project budget of $250,000 or less, medium project budget $250,000 to $800,000, and then a large project budget of $800,000 to $1.5 million. So when you're applying, you have to give an example budget of what your project might cost, and they give you this table that helps kind of narrow it down as to how much you could expect your project would cost based on what you're looking to get out of it. And that helps for the application process. And then other project considerations must be accessible to all users, including people with disabilities, and they have to meet the requirements described in the MassDOT engineering directive. So other project considerations, so they have to accommodate people walking and biking. So for instance, sharrows would not be considered because they really want to see a designated bike lane or bike pathway. Sidewalks will have to be considered for both sides of the street, marked or separated bike lanes, and a shared use path. Let's see, I already mentioned the sharrows, and then they must connect to a complete street network nearby the partnering school. We don't want to see a sidewalk that tends to kind of go to nowhere. So overall, it's a really great project, and the timeline, there's the application deadline is coming up. It's November 18th. So if you are a partnered Safe Routes to School or community, I would highly encourage you to get your applications put together and submit them by the 18th, and they will be notified by January 6th. So it's a relatively quick turnaround to find out if you did receive funding. And I know a lot of our mostly our cities in our region have already received funding, and I know there are a couple communities that did as well. So it's definitely something to consider for a really great complete streets type project. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Sherry?
I'll just say that we are available to talk to individual communities on a one-to-one basis or to answer questions that way. And we can also put you in touch with the state Safe Routes to School people to answer, excuse me, more in-depth questions and more difficult questions. So we're here to assist and help and provide however we can. So if you do have questions later on, just let us know and we can work something out.
Thank you. Moving forward to the next item on the agenda, the contract status reports. The first one being the FTA.
I have nothing on FTA or the RTA, and if George Gailey has anything from Mark's perspective, I'll let you talk about it.
George, it's all you.
You're still muted, George. No.
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, yes, I have a few updates on the Fitchburg Intermodal Transportation Center. MART is doing a roof replacement for part of the ITC center. And also we are changing the color from green to blue. Hopefully people will like the blue color. And MART anticipate a completion of the project by December next month. The other update I have is, as you know, MART has been awarded $180,000 for bus shelter through the shared streets and spaces program under Mass DOT for fiscal year 23. MART will be installing bus shelters in Fitchburg, Gardner, and Atoll. And MART recently installed 2 shelters, one at 75 East Broadway in Gardner, and the other one we installed it at Putnam Place, 166 Boulder Drive in Fitchburg, under 5307 funding program. And we already received so many feedback, people very happy from the public and from the elected officials. And hopefully we'll continue doing these bus shelters all over MART system. The other project, as you know, the Air Depot Square Pedestrian Plaza, and I will ask Alan to contribute to this because just last Monday, yesterday, a couple of days ago, we had a ribbon cutting of the project, and it looks fantastic.
Yes, yes.
Alan, please.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you very much, George, for that. But yes, the ribbon cutting ceremony happened this past Monday morning. And yeah, Depot Square Park is the extension, the final sort of segment of the Nashua River Rail Trail parking deck, the commuter, the downtown air, downtown commuter rail station new parking deck. This is then integrated with the Nashua River Rail Trail in downtown air. And then that rail trail connects across Main Street with proper new pedestrian signalization. Fantastic, George. And then this leads right down into Depot Square Park, which is a linear park, which then connects directly to the downtown air commuter rail station platform. So this is a fantastic multimodal transportation-based project delivered, and it's really serving now as sort of the cradle of the transformation of downtown air, everything we're trying to do. I know we have a project coming up on TIP also we'll really be lobbying hard for in the downtown. So yes, George, it's really tied together. Pedestrianism, cycling, auto transportation with shuttle services, rail, all of it together. That's why air was always known as Air Junction, because that's what we do. We're a connective hub for multimodal transit. So great project, Georgia. Thank you. And one that went on for quite a few years. So it's great that it's completed.
Yes, finally. And also you have that a new grant for the green
Yes, George, thank you for that. Yeah, we were just awarded an MVP grant, Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Action Grant, Air and Devons, because we really do try to do many regional things together, Air and Devons also. And that grant, which we just received, thank you, George, we will be planting one of the first, what's known as a Miyawaki forest, a pocket Miyawaki forest right there in Depot Square at the island, which is the turnaround for the shuttles.
Yes.
The first to Milwaukee Forest in Northeast America is in Cambridge at Danahy Park. We visited. So this is going to be, thank you, George, one of the first in central Massachusetts, Milwaukee Forest. And that's all about transforming the heat island. And it is a heat
Yes.
island out there right now in
Yeah.
Depot Square. And to start to mitigate the air quality issues from the rail, the heat island effect from all the asphalt, introduce shade, and again, make it sustainable, livable, and ready to withstand climate change, which is coming at us. So, hey, George, I forgot. Thank you. How cool the whole thing really is, right? I sometimes
Yes.
forget. Thank you, man.
A great project.
It is. So thank you,
Yes.
George, for that.
You're welcome. And the other thing we are working on is the Atoll Orange bus route. Right now has a new schedule, and we start running on the new schedule just the end last Monday, not this month, October 31st. We start as part of March system-wide bus route evaluation and schedule update effective Monday, October 31st. Atoll Orange bus route start running on a new schedule, servicing a new neighborhood, Pegwick Exchange Street area, and a new stop at North Quabbin Family Physician. Already have people very happy with the system, and as I mentioned before, we'll be installing several bus shelter in Atoll too. This is what I have. Thank you.
Any questions for George? Okay, seeing none, moving on to the next agenda item is scheduling for our next MJTC, which would be, we're skipping December, right, Brad? You're on mute, Brad.
Sorry, my turn to mess it up. I have a couple updates under the contract status report from Mass DOT.
Okay.
Quickly, the MPO will be meeting next week on Wednesday the 16th at 1 p.m. Since the last MJTC meeting in September, staff has submitted 2 separate grant applications to the U.S. Department of Transportation under some new funding opportunities from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. The first was for a regional-wide safety action plan grant for the Safe Streets for All program, and this was discussed at our last meeting. The second grant application was also for a planning grant for the town of Athol under the Reconnecting Communities pilot program. The planning grant would seek to examine the possibility of establishing a new interchange on Route 2 at South Athol Road. There is a question as to whether this actually meets the requirements of the program, but it was felt that we'd send it in anyway and let the US DOT determine if it does or does not meet what they're looking for. So responses on those grant applications are probably going to be coming after the first of the year. There were also a few handouts that we have for you to look at. The first is from Mass DOT. It's the Northern Tier Passenger Rail Study. And actually, there's 2 newsletters available, one for September and the latest one from October 31st. The October newsletter discusses the types of railroad signal systems that are in place and how they operate. And there was also a brief discussion related to cost estimation and how they are derived. We have no further information yet regarding the next public meeting for this study. When we do receive that information, we will post it on our website and we'll pass it along to everybody so that those interested can attend. The second handout is from the U.S. Department of Transportation, announcing the availability of a notice of funding opportunity from the National Culvert Removal, Replacement, and Restoration Grants Program. Eligible activities for the program include projects to replace, remove, or repair culverts that would meaningfully improve or restore fish passages for fish, and projects to replace, remove, or repair where they would meaningfully improve or restore fish passages for them. Eligible applicants include state, local governments, and recognized Indian tribes. The application is due February 23rd of 2023. This announcement is also available on our website. I encourage you to look at the notice of funding opportunity to get the full details of what is covered and what is not. The last handout is a brief overview and discussion of the U.S. DOT Thriving Communities Program. The Thriving Communities Program aims to ensure that disadvantaged communities adversely or disproportionately affected by environmental, climate, and human health policy outcomes have the technical tools and organizational capacity to compete for federal aid and deliver quality infrastructure projects that enable their communities and neighborhoods to thrive. The TCP facilitates the planning and development of transportation community revitalization activities and provides tools to ensure that under-resourced communities can access the historic funding provided in the bipartisan infrastructure law. For example, for fiscal year 2022, the Thriving Communities Program offers two separate response opportunities for potential applicants. One is a letter of interest, and the second is a notice of funding opportunity that are described in the handout in more detail. There is also a page available in this handout with links to various US DOT websites regarding this program. There's worksheets for letters of interest and so forth. They have some deadlines coming up in December and the end of November. So if you're interested in what can be done, take a look at the program and see if you can submit a letter of interest, which is a lot simpler than a grant application, for some possible assistance, technical assistance for the community. And that quickly is what I have under Mass DOT.
Thank you. Any questions there? Not seeing or hearing any. I guess we'll move forward to our second to the last agenda item, and it's our next administrative matters. The next MJTC is scheduled for.
We have previously discussed not meeting in December, which would be,
I thought.
Normally would be December 14th. So unless something significant comes up, we won't be meeting again until January 11th, 2023 at 2:30 p.m.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns before we would move to adjourn? I don't see any. So thank you all for joining on today, and happy holidays to you all. We won't see you until after Christmas and into the new year. Unless something happens to come up before then. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.